So yeah, let's talk about some of the music that came out in 2021. And it's kind of wild because a lot of music came out, a lot of cool things happened. And we were fortunate enough to have on our show, um, some people that put out some incredible records. And we had the opportunity to kind of talk to them about the creation of these records and, get a little bit of insight on it. And as it turns out, not that we're being homers, but it's some of the stuff we listen to the most. So, having said that, I guess I think we're going to pick 5 each.
That's correct.
And cool. So we'll just blaze through them. I guess I will start with my 5, and I'm not going to give you like an order specifically, just because I thought that was a little tough. But I'll tell you some of my favorite records and tell you a little bit about why I love them so much. So, start off with a band called Teenage Wrist, who I've talked about on this podcast a bunch. The beginning of the year, they put out this record called Earth is a Black Hole, which I believe is their sophomore record. So it's the second record they came out with. Epitaph put it out. It's just such a big record. They kind of, how do I explain them? They were a little bit on like the shoegazy sort of like fuzzy pop side, I guess, with their first record. And then this one kind of transitioned more into like a more rock focused record. I mean, sometimes when I listen to some of the songs on Earth is a Black Hole, I get like shades of Jimmy Eat World. I get shades of, bands kind of in that vein that kind of toe the line of both records, of both genres, I should say. But, Wear You Down, Silver Spoon, Yellow Belly, some just great tracks on that record. If you haven't had an opportunity to listen to it, definitely do. But one of my favorites was that record from Teenage Wrist. Next, I'll go to one of my favorite bands that kind of surprised me and put out a record in 2021. That band is called Trophy Scars, and if you haven't listened to them, man, they are like a psychedelic rock, blues, post-hardcore band, just like so hard to describe them, but just such incredible stuff. They self-released actually this incredible record called Astral Pariah. Just fantastic. I mean, like Jerry's grovelly voice kind of evokes, stuff like, the late great frontman from Planes Mistaken for Stars, and just like this really deep guttural sound, and their flourishes are just incredible. I mean, like, they have these, blues shuffle kind of songs where they've got, these like haunting little piano lines in there, and they're just, the atmosphere that they create on this record is just wild. And if you've listened to Trophy Scars like I have, they've developed such an interesting sound over time. Really cool stuff. But Astral Pariah, great record. If you haven't had a chance to listen to it, definitely go do it. Next record, which I will point out, I've got this hat here, my Free Throw hat, and Free Throw happened to put out, I think, one of the best records of 2021 in piecing it together. Again, I feel like Free Throw is the kind of band that could do no wrong. I mean, every record they've put out has just been a treat to listen to. Piecing it together is no exception. They've definitely, even on this record, sort of gotten out of their comfort zone. They had a couple of songs that were more ballad focused, but again, that frenetic, kind of 3 guitar pace that Free Throw does, just the way that they write songs, they just have the most unreal catchy choruses. I mean, like that you could imagine. And I mean, if you get the opportunity to see them live, they're just bonkers. They're off the wall. So kudos to them. We've had them, of course, on the podcast, before, a bunch of Preds fans, and just tremendous band. Triple Crown really, lucked out by having them on their roster. So great record there. Next one I'm going to go to, which a lot of people cited as one of their favorite records of 2021. And it's definitely very true. And that's going to be Radical by Every Time I Die. I think really a transcendent record for a band that has 7 or 8 full-length records. And the fact that in 2021, they're still evolving is incredible. Yeah, it really is. It's, they've come a long way from, Last Night in Town and even Hot Damn. But I mean, like the fact that they're introducing a more melodic side to them, but still have these just unbelievably heavy songs. I mean, AWOL is just incredible. Thing with Feathers is great with Andy Hull's feature on it from Manchester Orchestra. A Colossal Wreck. I mean, just like the whole record is filled with bangers. It's just incredible. And, just knowing that, Jordan Buckley, Keith Buckley rather, their vocalists struggle with, getting sober and finally, getting sober and, having that really come through on this record is something that's really great. So love that record. And the last one I'm going to mention, again, another alumni of Bardown Breakdown, is going to be the newest Pet Symmetry record that came out called Future Suits. And that one is just, anytime Evan and Rick get together to make any music, it's incredible. And the greatest thing about it was I had I'm part of Evan's Patreon where, you get records every month and stuff. And being a part of that Patreon, I was able to get Future Suits about 2 or 3 weeks before it actually even, released on the internet, and getting to listen to it early was awesome. The whole idea, of them writing this record about, essentially, the doom and gloom of the world and the prospect of the world potentially just ending and all of us getting our future suits on and going into the future. And, it's kind of funny to talk about, especially now when things are still kind of a little crazy. So, but Future Suits was one of my favorite records. Give it up to Asian Man Records for doing great stuff. And of course, Evan's label Storm Changers. But if you didn't get a chance to listen to any of those 5 records I talked about, definitely take a opportunity to spin them or even pick a track from each record. I guess that's what I'll do. And then I'll shoot it over to Mikey. If I could pick a track from each record, I would tell you for Trophy Scars, probably go listen to Father Part 1 and Part 2. Those songs are both fantastic. For Teenage Wrist, I think my favorite song on the record is probably Silver Spoon. Taste of Gasoline is great too. For Future Suits, 2021, A Personal Space Odyssey, and Pet Sympathy, great songs. I love them on there. I mentioned them already for Every Time I Die, but if you want to hear kind of an Every Time I Die song that will remind you of Every Time I Die, I would tell you to go listen to maybe either Postboredom or Planet Shit. And if you want to hear something that's a little bit different, Thing with Feathers is great. And then for Free Throw, I mean, the whole record is incredible, but Ocular Pat Down is fantastic. Ghost in the Routine is fantastic. Cloud Sick too. I mean, but definitely, if you get an opportunity to check out, track or two from every record, and if you like it, go stream the whole record because, it'll help them as artists. So that's my 5, and I'm sticking to it.
So I hate the fact that you now just put me on the spot by adding tracks from each record because I'm so bad with the names of singles.
Okay. Hey man, that's fine. I'm sure a lot of the records that you're going to mention I like as well. So I could probably even be like, oh, that record, this is the song you should listen to. So I could bail you out if you need it.
All right. Well, I'm going to have at it. So
all right.
And same as you, I'm not putting this in any particular order. It's just 5 of my favorite records from 2021.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
And the first one on my list is an EP, actually. And I'm not following the rules there. EPs can be on here.
They can.
So it's going to be Driveway's Skeptic. Came out October 29th. Self-released it. Just your typical Driveways music that you would expect from them. I can't say enough about that band, and they just go into mental health and all of that that we all struggle with, and they do it in a fun way where it just reminds you of the music that we grew to love in the early 2000s, and I just freaking love that band. I can't say enough about them. So Driveway Skeptic. My next one is Origami Angel, Gang,
great record.
Came out April 30th on Counterintuitive Records. I felt like they had big shoes to fill with, following up Somewhere City, which is kind of like a life-changing record. It's just so good. But I think that they kind of stay true to their formula, which people have loved about them, and then just their honest lyrics, and they stuck to the formula and created a solid sophomore album.
Yeah, agreed.
So Origami Angel Gami Gang. Next one is, I should have also mentioned that Driveways are former guests, but next one is the Home Team with Slow Bloom. Came out in October on Revival Recordings. Yeah, we've talked about this record enough on the show, but man, did they come through with Slow Bloom. Just heavy pop songs that just hit home, that like you could hear these songs on the radio if you wanted to. Like that,
Absolutely.
they have that pop ability. They're about to go out on tour with This Wildlife and Broadside. I think that that's going to do wonders for this band, and I think Home Team is going to have a huge year in 2022.
I agree.
Next one is Jail Socks Coming Down, which came out in September on Counterintuitive Records. Jail Socks is a Charlotte, North Carolina band, and I guess they're just like a rock band at the end of the day. Like they're not pop punk, they're not emo. I think they're just a rock band, and I freaking love them. That album, start to finish, is just fantastic. It's something I can put on in the car with Caitlin, and she also appreciates. So definitely check that one out if you haven't.
Absolutely.
And then lastly, former guest of the show, We Were Sharks, New Low, which came out in May on Revival Recordings. I think that they just, I believe it's their debut album on Revival Recordings. I could be totally wrong, but they put out a beautiful record that is your traditional pop punk kind of easy listen, that start to finish just gives that pop punk flavor that you love. And
hell yeah,
those are my top 5. I'm not breaking them down like Tom does. One thing I do want to kind of point out, I purposely mentioned the labels. Anything you notice about that?
Pretty much 2 labels.
Pretty much 2 labels, and like pretty much 2 of the smaller independent labels, which I think is kind of showing the direction that those 2 labels are going in. I think
for sure.
that we're going to be hearing about Counterintuitive Records and Revival Recordings very much in 2022.
I agree. I do agree. Absolutely.
And I'm not going to lie, I know nothing about Counterintuitive Records, like nothing. So,
well, I can tell you this: I technically am an alumni of Counterintuitive Records.
What?
So the band Who Are the Toms that I was in for a little bit with my 2 other Tom friends, one of which my buddy Tom Waring, who is now in a great band called Yeah Is What We Have, which is an awesome reference to the band Granddaddy, if you've ever had an opportunity to listen to them. But actually Counterintuitive put out a split cassette with Who Are the Toms and this band called Snooze, which was a side project of a couple of the guys in the band Just Friends, who are kind of becoming enormous. But yeah, so I have a release on Counterintuitive Records. So, it's not a big deal.
What do you know about that label?
That's a great question. Well, here's what I can tell you about Counterintuitive. They're a lot like the praise that we give for Pure Noise all the time. Counterintuitive, from everyone that I've ever talked to that has had a record put out on Counterintuitive, they all say the same kind of thing. The people that run the label are just wonderful people. They're not in the business of trying to, take a band and recreate them. They just can understand talent when it's available and take care of that talent and make sure that, these bands are able to get out in the forefront of the scene and make some money and have the artistic and creative space to do what they want to do. But Counterintuitive it really is a cool label.